I guess we'll start. I mean, where it all starts, songwriting. And tell me a little bit about the background going into this record. I mean, you had quite a bit of time between, when you did the first album and when it came out. Did you use a lot of that downtime to write songs, or was this stuff more recent?
It was a little bit of both. I think as a songwriter, you're kind of always songwriting. You're always just kind of doing it. I'm never like the inspiration just kind of hits you when it feels like it, rather than you trying to force it.
Cool. Yeah.
I always just kind of have a list of ideas that it's like, oh, if I want to work more on this, I will, or here's a newer one. And there were a handful of ideas that I had already bookmarked since the completion of the last album of like, yeah, I can't wait to work on these. And then, it's like when you start to work on new ideas, then you get more excited, then you come up with more ideas, and that just sort of snowballs. But there were two moments specifically. One moment right when the world shut down in March, April of 2020.
Yeah.
Right. Man, I'm home. I'm gonna record, and everything is gonna be great. And that was not true. Uh, made about four demos. I think I made the demos for Another Celebration, Better Than You. Let's see what else. Right, and then for one more, I can't remember. Um, and then the world shut down and everything happened, and I lost all creative desire, and then everything else happened in my life later that year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it was on, and then Mammoth, begun, and I haven't really stopped since. The only moments here and there, I think one of the largest breaks I've had in the last 3 years was after our co-headline with Dirty Honey, the Young Guns tour. I think I had
Right.
about a month and a half after that, and during that time, I ended up writing uh, like six or seven more ideas, which brought the ideas I had ready for Mammoth 2 to about 12, I think, 12 or 14.
Cool.
And from there it was just ready to go. I was excited to get with Elvis and to start pulling the ideas apart and getting up in the studio.
Cool. Excellent. Now, how do your ideas start off? Do they, I mean, you play all these multiple instruments. I mean, you start off on drums? Do they start off on guitar or just in your head?
Usually guitar, and I kind of like to make quick sort of minute long demos of whatever idea I have, almost like as a not with any structure. I like to call them like idea showcases, where I just kind of put every variant of the idea I have possibly just back to back, just give 8 bars of each sort of thing.
Right.
And then from there, I get with Elvis, and he's like, yeah, this is good, keep working on that. And it's like, let's explore this. And then from there, I kind of finish everything up, and we get into that. But it's like I like to, with the drums especially, because like they're all just Logic demos. I make sure to keep them as bare and
Right.
boring as possible, so that when I go into the studio to record, that's when I kind of flare it up and add the personality to the drums, and to allow it to be kind of sort of a spontaneous in the studio writing sort of thing.
Cool. Now, this album, it leans a little bit more towards the harder and heavier sound than the first album. Uh, Sort of a focus. I mean, there's still a lot of variety there, but was that kind of the outset, or was it kind of just the timing? Just the state of the world. Is that what influenced it, or was just
Yeah, I think that too, but I think just the desire to do a little something different.
yeah,
I think different is exciting as long as it doesn't stray too much from what has already been established.
right,
So I think that's sort of my desire, is that it's like, I want to give, a reason to listen to the next album, so it's like I'm excited to try something new for the third album.
sure,
It's I that was what keeps me going, and is exciting in the recording process, to kind of be like, yeah, we haven't done that before. That's cool. What is this going to sound like, sort of thing. And I think that's where you get, the gent-esque breakdown and right, and in like the super heavy, almost like Gojira Tool middle of Optimist
Oh yeah, yeah.
and stuff like that, where it's just like I love heavy music. I'm sure everybody in the world is so tired of hearing how much I love Meshuggah, but it's true. I love Meshuggah.
Yeah.
So it's just, I guess that's just kind of where that inspiration comes out. And it was fun to let that part of music I like out and see how my own songwriting, where that took it. And I guess that's what it is.
And I just have to say one other general comment, the melodicism of your songwriting and everything. I mean, what the cool thing about it, I was listening to it again today and just kind of just came to me. It's like you could rearrange a lot of these songs for other genres, that it doesn't have to necessarily be heavy, you know?
Yeah, I think that's where you get a lot of the criticism from some like staunch, sort of, every genre has their sort of gatekeepy, this is how it should be sort of
Right.
fans. And I think when they hear that my music has melody, sing along sort of melody and choruses, it's very important for me. I think that's where people are like, oh, it's pop, it's not, it's not heavy, it's not real rock and roll or whatever. And it's like, that's what I love about music is I think in this album, I think Right is the perfect example of the music that I like to make, where it's that it can be as heavy as it is, but also it's just as melodic, and they don't override each other. Choruses are very important to me, and I love good melody.
Yeah, no, it's definitely and really strong. I mean, that's the thing. I was just listening to it and going, like, gosh, I could hear this done as a piano and acoustic guitar arrangement, and whatever it's other stuff, but it's so cool that it's, you know, it could be open to that. That's the
Yeah,
thing. There are other
I
artists
mean,
taking it and doing it, an interpretation.
yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, a lot of my ideas do stem from just me and an acoustic guitar, so I think that's where that could also come from too. So
Cool. And your lyrics, I think the lyrics are really on point here. I see kind of a overriding theme of frustration and hope,
yeah, I think that's where, if there was a title track, it would certainly be Another Celebration at the End of the World, given just the vibe and also the album cover for one as
Yeah.
well. And I think I think a lot of people listened to the first album and thought that I was working through, what had been publicly happening in my life at the time. But I finished that in 2018.
Right, right.
So everything, the world shutting down, me losing dad, and me trying to figure out how to live my life without such an important factor uh, is uh, is all coming out on this record. And I think that's where, I think maybe that is where the heaviness steps, where that comes from, and where it's a bit darker as well. But I think you do feel a little bit of that hope kind of mixed in with that.
Oh,
Certainly.
definitely. Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, there's just I mean, this is moving more into the making of the record, but it seems like you got this done pretty quickly. I mean, you had kind of a lot of time to do your debut album. I mean, we had your dad mentioning it in 2015, and you finished it in 2018, and it came out, much later. And it's but this time you really just banged it out. I mean,
Yeah,
wow.
I mean, we only had so much time, and that was, I would like to not do it that way again, but considering that arguably we came out with a better product in a fraction of the time, maybe that is the way to do it. Sort of just hope for that lightning in a bottle sort of vibe. But yeah, it certainly it did get stressful at points, but we did it. So
Amazing accomplishment. I mean, because that's the density of the arrangements, the tracks. When you listen to it, there's so many Easter eggs, and there's so much going on. And this is the kind of record I hear that takes a lot of bands well over a year to finish up, and that's with separate members. That's not just one person doing everything.
Thank you. Yeah, I really do. That was just kind of the main thing I wanted to avoid. I was like, as long as it's not a sophomore slump, it needs to be as good or better.
Oh yeah,
Uh, and
yeah.
that
Sophomore
was
slump went on vacation when I heard your record. So like, I give up. I'm done.
yeah, that was that was desperately the only thing I wanted to achieve. I just wanted it to be I wanted the quality I don't know. I don't think that that would have happened either way, because it's just I'm very OCD and perfectionist with it, where it's like I don't think I would have released it had I not been proud of it or felt it was good enough.
Cool. Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
but yeah,
mission accomplished. He did an awesome job.
thank you.
The studio now, you've upgraded, you've renovated, the Neve board. Tell me a little bit about the decision to put the Neve in there.
Oh man, I think the results speak for themselves.
Yeah.
The album just sounds so. I think the big difference between this one and the last one is that this one was done completely all in 5150 from start to finish. With the first album, it was over 3 years. It was recorded in three different studios.
Right.
But so there was just this, I think this center, this sort of I don't know, this wholeness to all of these tracks, because they all just happened in the same place that you can hear. And I mean, with Elvis driving the board, it really just, it's magical. And then we're recording the tape at the same time. I'm using a new Ludwig drum kit that I got, the 40th anniversary Sparkle
Cool.
green Sparkle kit that I play in the Don't Back Down video.
Right. Yeah.
And it's man, it was just kind of unfair how much we had on our side in terms of sonic quality, that it just I'm very proud of it.
Cool. What other upgrades did you do to the studio?
Man, other than the board, we got a lot of screens and cameras and stuff. So instead of me being 2 rooms away and you can't see anything I'm doing, we've
Right.
got cameras there. And it was really important for me to just kind of bring the technology up into the modern, era, but not change anything else. Like it's got the same vibe, the same parquet floors, like it's nothing, no vibe of it has changed. It's just been freshly updated. And that was the most important thing to me, that really other than the board and just, the extra visibility with the screens and being able to, see everything a bit better. That's really it.
Cool. Now, of course, the Neve boards, it's a great drum and guitar board. Does that kind of what drove your decision to put that in there?
Yeah, I really think it. I mean, just anything compared to the last board that we had in there, which was barely working, was really an upgrade. And to have such a wonderful board be within my ability to purchase and put in the studio was just a no-brainer, considering it was half the size, yet has twice the amount of tracks.
Yeah.
It's not like a power suck. The other board was so hot that we'd have to keep the air on all the time so it wouldn't fucking melt.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's just so loud. The power supply now, it's like we're saving money with this one in the studio because it doesn't run as hot or as hard. It's whisper quiet, and it's just like, man, what an upgrade.
Oh, very cool.
Always.
So you mentioned, I mean, you are recording to tape now. Is it exclusively on tape? I mean, is it flying back between digital at all, or kind of?
Yeah, no, it's we record all the tape and then we dump it to Pro Tools.
Okay, cool.
And but yeah, I don't know, that's just the way we've gone about it. It's certainly not a practical way if you're getting into it. Technology these days is so great, but since we have the tape machines, it's like, why not?
Doesn't hurt. Yeah. Well, it's kind of like using tape as an effects process all to itself or an outboard.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just to add that sonic sort of crispiness to it. And, we have it and we can do it. So why not?
Now, even with the technology, I find nothing quite compresses like tape too. So
yeah, it's a very specific sort of thing. So again, it's like, since we have it and we can do it, might as well. But it was tricky for us to initially get tape.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's not too many tape manufacturers out there anymore, and
no
shipment that we had gotten to start with, I think we ordered from 3 different places and 2 of them got delayed, and we got one of them. And when we put the tape there, on the machine, it like had all this like goo on it,
Oh,
like too much goo, and then the tape started to like fall apart
oh my God.
to the point where actually, this was after the Foos when we did the Taylor Hawkins thing, and the Foos camp reached out to us and was like, "Hey, do you guys have tape?
Oh
Because
boy.
we just got this bum tape shipment. It's really fucked up. Like it's like, dude, us too." But by that time, we had actually gotten um, a couple rolls of tape that were good enough, and we actually spared one for them. So I think they actually used one
Oh,
of
cool.
my rolls of tape for when they started working on but here we are, which is pretty crazy. But
Yeah, definitely.
that bum shipment really fucked everything up. I
Yeah.
remember,
Oh man, Josh was just cleaning the fucking Studer machine for like a day and a half.
yeah,
It
because it
had
left, because that first tape that we put on there fucked everything up, because it just left all this residue over the whole machine.
Oh,
it
I
was
can only imagine.
It was a nightmare, but
Oh man, the joys of modern technology, you know.
exactly.
uh, well, Elvis, I mean, you've got a really good working relationship with him going, and he's just, you know, does a great job on all of his projects and everything like that. But tell me a little bit about your working relationship with him and kind of the more nuts and bolts type of stuff that you guys work out. What does he really contribute to your
Yeah, I
project?
think people truly don't realize the importance of Elvis in this process. I truly think that if I never said that I'm playing everything on the albums, I don't. It's funny. I think a lot of people use, which was a big surprise for me after the first album coming out, is people using that as a sort of criticism. It's like, oh yeah, well, he's got no natural back and forth in the studio, so that means it's really uninspired material, blah blah blah
Ugh,
blah. And I feel like if people didn't know that I was playing everything, they wouldn't say that. But I think just because they do know that I'm playing everything, that's why they're saying that. But at the same time, what they fail to realize is the fact that Elvis literally is that in the studio. He is that other half of that creative, bounce. So when I'm stuck on something, or if I'm, on the right track, he helps me either keep digging or go somewhere else. He really is that friction that is needed for the creative process to
cool.
to to complete. So he is absolutely integral to the process. Him and Jeff, and I really, it's just you put me, Elvis, as engineer Jeff, and assistant Josh in the studio, and that's you get a Mammoth album.
Yeah.
That's all you need. And then then we have Matt there as well, and my uncle Patrick to kind of document everything, and it's a pretty easy process.
Cool. I mean, the criticism of the thing, I mean, I especially, both records, but this record in particular, to hear it, it sounds like a band record. I mean, it just, I kind of wonder too, do you put the stuff together with the band and live performance in mind, or is it just like I'm in the studio and I'm just going to go for it?
Yeah, no, this one was certainly, I'm in the studio. I'm gonna go for it.
Cool.
I think that's where certain moments, like those newer, heavier spots, sort of came out. It was just kind of like, yeah, like I think there were some ideas I had way early on where it was like, that's too heavy. I don't think that'll work for the project. But then this time around, it's like, hey, maybe some of those older ideas will work now that we've explored that sound a bit more.
Cool. I mean, with Elvis, as producer's role, a lot of people don't understand what a producer does. And does he help you out with your song arrangements a bit? Does he suggest that maybe you build this part up, work on the dynamics with you, or
Yeah, certainly. He'd be like, this place needs to go here. This place needs to go here. You need to make this happen. You need to make this happen. If that's not there, he really pushes me, and we have such a great working relationship where there's no animosity to like going like, well, oh, it's not good enough, or blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, it's like, it's always for the betterment of the song. I think
right?
I've written enough. I've worked enough with other songwriters to where I know that there are some people who like to go like, hey, let's do this, and just do that because they want to say that that's the part that they wrote, sort of thing,
Sure,
rather
sure.
rather than collaborating for the best song possible and to make the best of it, regardless of what their input was to begin with.
Cool.
But with Elvis and I, it's really for the betterment of the song, and I think that really shows.
Give me one example of like where he's really improved upon one of the songs on the new record.
Oh man, well, it's funny because there's some demos that I can think of that actually didn't make the album that'll probably be on the next one because I've actually been working on them a little bit lately. But yeah, there's really God, I got to think of the songs. I think he really helped push the melody out of me for Better Than You.
Right.
I really wasn't sure where I was going, and I think the collaboration is what brought out that sort of dichotomy that I really love in the song, which is the melodic quality of Better Than You is so sing-songy
Yeah.
that it's almost funny how it's juxtaposed to the sort of sludgy heaviness of the main riff, and I think that made something really special.
It's funny you mention it because that's really what brought up in my mind when I mentioned earlier about how these songs could be arranged for other arrangements, other genres, that sort of thing. In fact, I kind of heard myself as like, I could see doing a Beatles treatment on this song. You know, it's not a
Yeah.
Beatles song per se, but I could see doing that with it, you
I
know.
love that you say that because that we were calling that song Sugar Beatles. We were recording that just because of the ending had
Yeah.
that really heavy chunk, but with that descending sort of Beatles-esque thing going on, we were calling it Sugar Beatles. That's really funny.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, now you've gotten in the studio, you're laying down stuff. Where does it start? You know, especially coming from your one guy, you know, doing the instrumentation and vocals and everything. So where do you begin the whole thing?
So yeah, after making sort of basically I have my my RFJ Logic demos, which means ready for Jeff.
Right.
And I
Cool.
send them over to Jeff. He preps them for Pro Tools. We lock the tape machines to Pro Tools, and then we start tracking drums. And rather than like, oh, okay, we'll do, you know, here's the intro, and then we'll do the verse, and then do the chorus, and that's good because we'll just fly the choruses. What we do is we literally just like, first we do like a round of like, let's see how far we can get before I fuck up. And you know, we'll record half the song, and they're just really big, long takes.
Right.
Really like so it's really full performances. So when you hear the drums, it's like they're recorded in big chunks, like probably like maybe 3 big chunks for a whole song.
Cool. Yeah, I don't get this. I don't get the piecemeal Pro Tools thing of like, yeah, like you said, Court. It's here's the verse, and we done it. Then we just repeat it. Here's the chord.
Yeah.
We repeat it.
Yeah, no, it's really just like sort of putting together performances rather than, you know, stitching together, you know, this part into that part, into that part, into that part. And from there, then we move on to bass. And then it was funny. My Uncle Pat, usually hanging out the whole time, but he was like, okay, you know, I got to go home for a little bit, but I'll be right back. And he was gone for, I think, 2 days.
Right.
Back, and we were already done with bass. Like bass
Cool.
was pretty quick this time around. And then we get into guitar, which is really fun. I mean, it's all fun, but that's where we really, that's, you know, that's the bulk, that's the meat, is getting into the rhythm guitar from there. And then from there we sort of split duty between vocals and like overdub solo stuff. So it's
Right.
like if I sing hard one day, or if I have, you know, because I was writing everything as we were doing it. So it's like I'd wake up, record or write, you know, melodies and vocals and lyrics and stuff, and pull my hair out over that. And then because it's like, I don't know, with lyrics, I kind of have to go to a place to kind of get that out of me, and that's not always a really fun place to go to. But you know, we got it done. And then you know, you do that, you just kind of hop back and forth between vocals and solos. And yeah, it was tough because it was like, you know, I had a lot of ideas this time around that I felt like were good spots for solos. I mean, there's more solos on this album compared to the first one.
Yeah, definitely.
So I definitely put more on my plate and more stress on that, trying to figure out where to go. But luckily, throughout the process, it just kind of came to me and we figured it out. I think the only one that I was really really worried about. Like, I mean, there were certain ones like I knew what I wanted to do for another celebration, but I didn't come up with it until we got in the studio and it's like, well, let's try something.
Right.
Like I knew I wanted it to be this sort of repeated, more rhythmic sort of tapping thing that goes through the stabs. But I didn't know what notes to do or how I was going to do it. And we just kind of basically every solo was just a little bit of fucking around until we found the right path to go to.
Cool.
That's how the solo for Right came around. That's how the solo for I'm All Right came around. I knew I wanted to do like this sort of 80s wah solo-y thing for I'm All Right. And I got so tired of operating the wah
Right.
that I had Pat do it, my uncle Pat, which now it's like that story has been so telephoned through so many random like pull quotes
Right.
that people think now that Al played the fucking solo.
Oh
It's
boy.
like, oh, Wolfgang Van Halen uncle plays guitar solo. It's just like, oh man, the amount of clickbait that people got out of that for that week was just so dumb.
I know.
But yeah, no, so he was, and as a joke, I included it on the back of the album, because throughout, recording, Elvis would plug in random uh, guitar pedals and work them and stuff. But I just thought it'd be really funny to be like, oh, Patrick Bertinelli, wah pedal operator on
Right.
solo of I'm All Right. And when I added that, it actually held back the album cover stuff designed by a day because we had to sign a work for hire and have uh, uh, Pat be paid for $1 just so we could legally have that there, which was pretty
Right.
funny. Slowed
Oh,
it down.
amazing.
Like, whoops, but it was a pretty funny joke.
That's cool though. Yeah. Very cool.
Because now, since they just updated Apple Music, you can actually go into the credits and you can see it says guitar technician Patrick Bertinelli for I'm All Right, which is pretty funny.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's cool. Well, a little bit about the recording of stuff. A little, again, more nuts and bolts. The drums. Was the Ludwig kit? Was that like your primary kit, the only kit, or?
Yeah, that was the only kit. The only thing that we changed is I'm pretty sure we used a different snare for every song because I asked Al. I was like, "Hey, is that cool?" We were down in the storage locker because I was picking up stuff just for recording, and I was like, "Hey, Al, would that be cool if I borrowed a couple snares?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." So I ended up using a different snare for every song. I can't even remember the exact ones that we did, but we had a whole pile of them ready to go. It was really cool.
That's very cool. That's the snare is such a sonic stamp too, and that's I guess why so many of the songs they all have their own personality. They fit together. Yeah. The album fits together as a whole, but the album each song has its own kind of thing going on, and
yeah, there's I'm All Right has a big washy sort of 80s-esque, almost like Def Leppard-y kind of snare, but then you have the tighter songs like Optimist and Right. It was really fun to hey, I think this one will work. This one will work. It was fun to go through that process.
And the same applies to the guitar solos. Like your guitar solos each have their own kind of sonic personality as well. It's not just this is my lead sound.
Yeah, I think, getting into that with guitars, I think the biggest thing was literally it was the burst color SA-126, which was the third prototype that is basically all the guitar on the album. It was such a monumentally important guitar to the whole process that I think you can really hear the tone and how different it is and how dynamic it is from the heavy, just chuggy stuff to something like the clean tones at the beginning of Take a Bow. Like it's such a versatile guitar. And I think it's such an incredible showcase for what the SA-126 is capable of.
Cool. Very cool. Very cool. The bass rig, how was your bass rig set up? Was amp indirect or?
It was the same bass rig that I used the last time. I think we just actually mixed the basses up. Usually for the first album, I wanted to basically the whole thing was to just not use the same stuff that I always did with Van Halen. But this time I used this. It's funny. We have this Ampeg. I can't even remember what the exact name of the amp, but it's an Ampeg bass amp but we mic the back of it as well as the front, because for some reason Dad figured out that when we mic the back of it, it just gets this sort of rumbly low end quality that the front doesn't produce.
Yeah.
And Elvis was so surprised when we did that on the last album. He was like, wow, holy shit, it really works. It really adds to it. But other than that, I think we had this Music Man bass that was every song on the first album, but this time around it was only half. I ended up using my blue, I like to call it the Wolfenstein, but it's the blue Frankenstein stripe bass.
Okay, yeah.
And that was, I think it was the first bass that we played because it was on Another Celebration. And from there, that was it, other than a song that didn't make the cut yet, but it was because it had a drop A thing that I had to use a 5-string just to get that low.
Right. Oh yeah.
But that, I mean, I'm excited about working more on that song, so it'll probably show up on the next album.
Cool.
But yeah, other than that, it was those basses.
Okay, cool. Amplifiers, effects, was pretty much the 50 watt your main amp on this again, or
it was the special 50 watt. It was the one that I used for the Taylor Hawkins show at Wembley, and ended up for both of the shows because we had to do the LA one in the middle of recording, which was
yeah.
Yeah, I named them the 50 watt head and the cabinet. The 50 watt head is Noel and the cabinet is Liam.
Cool. Because they always fight.
Because I played them at Wembley and the British and Oasis, and
okay.
The cabinet makes noise and the and the I don't know.
Cool.
So yeah, I used they were really the shining stars. Really, it was the winning combo of that and the SA-126, and it's like that's what I have with me on tour all the time.
Yeah,
that's why we sound so good. So yeah, that's really the winning combo there. But when it comes to effects, it was pretty much whatever Elvis was like, hey, let's try this. There were so many moments where he's like, let's do this, and there are so many layers of stuff that to the point where I don't even know half the shit that we were using. I know there was like a univibe pedal, and we did all the usual EVH pedals, like the phaser, the flanger, and the wah.
Right.
But other than that, it's funny when it comes to my music, there's never really any parts hinging on needing an effect or a specific thing there. It's like my pedal board is kind of, live is just kind of there for whatever I feel like doing, not something I usually need to do.
Right. Cool.
And occasionally needing like a delay or something for like the distance solo, or really I just every solo is just bumping up to the red channel, and it's just and doing whatever. But we definitely had a lot more fun this time around with just like I just kind of let Elvis go nuts. I was like, yeah, plug this in, see how's this sound. Oh, that sounds cool. And I think you can really hear that on I mean, just really the whole thing, because there's so many layers that it's a very layered sound. I think you hear something new every time you listen to it. And
100%.
On like Take a Bow, on the choruses, there's like obviously there's already 3 different guitar parts, but then even with like the lower part, the when all the 3 guitars go and do that, each one is doing like a different effect. It has like a different flanger or a phaser, and it was really cool. It was really, really fun to just kind of explore whatever Elvis was like, oh, let's try this.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, there's so much ear candy. This album's got so much going on. I mean, like you said, every time I listen to it, I hear something new. And of course, you also used your dad's Marshall and Frankenstein for Take a Bow.
Oh yeah, and then especially for Take a Bow. I mean, that was. I went into the process going like, oh, it'd be fun to use a different guitar of Dad's for every solo, but then it just turned into, oh, let's just boil it down to one moment that I think feels really special. And through the writing process of the album, when I came up with the solo section and then the solo for Take a Bow, because it's funny. I was just soloing over a looped melody, that looped section of the main riff of
Right.
Take a Bow. And I was just sitting there for like 3 or 4 hours one day, and I ended up coming up with all these fun parts, and that's how that section got longer and longer and longer and longer, and then made the song longer. Because it just felt like such a special moment that I didn't, and it just felt so fun, and felt so good that I didn't want to change it. So that's where that whole build and everything comes from. And it felt like such a departure, less a departure, more of an elevation, I think, from anything I'd done before,
Oh yeah.
solo wise, that it felt like a really special moment to mark with using the Frankenstein and then using the original Marshall through one of the original Marshall cabs at the same time. So it was really cool to be able to have that special moment in my career and songwriting and guitar playing, marked by something so important, and having my dad be right there.
It's a landmark solo. I say solo of the year. Forget Nuno. It's just,
Wow.
it's the solo of the year because it's emotional and it builds and it's dramatic. And it starts off in this very soulful bluesy thing and then goes off in this really cool, the ultra tapping, just amazing. I mean, and just in the tone. Do you want to talk a bit about the reverb and the delay on that too? Just kind of what kind of how do you know how Elvis did he put that together? Do you guys kind of collaborate on that part of it?
That was really Elvis. It's funny. I was so focused on using the amp and the guitar that I kind of let him take over. It was a very emotional sort of thing for me, just playing it on the guitar through that I think I like looking back on it. It's like, yeah, he did handle the sort of reverb delay portion of that.
The sweetening. So
Exactly.
cool. Do you use the Variac?
Yes, we did.
Cool.
That's the way to do it.
That's the secret.
Authentic secret to that whole combo. So yes.
Excellent. Most
In
excellent.
fact, I'm pretty sure in the picture of me in the album, there you can see it in the background.
Cool.
Look and see.
Excellent. I mean, there's a few Easter eggs on the album too. Like there's that little behind the bird scrape.
Oh yeah, on the Miles Above Me solo.
Miles Above Me, yeah.
I do that live now for the few times that we've done that.
Cool. That's cool. It's just a fun little thing. Also, there's that after you come out of the solo, you do that kind of tremolo picking thing. It reminds me of like Radiohead or Muse.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's the same thing. It's just
SA 126 again.
Yeah.
Cool.
The other Take a Bow, the SA was everything.
Oh, excellent. Were there any other amps? I mean, beyond the 5150 50 watt?
I mean, not really. If it was really the SA that was the champion, other than using the Marshall for the Take a Bow.
Okay, cool. So you didn't dig into Matt's British amps then?
Matt's always there to help flavor stuff up, but no, I think we really hit our stride with everything that was going on already. We didn't need to dive too deep.
So what's special about that amp? What you mentioned the special. Did James Brown do a little extra magic on it?
Oh, I mean, it's straight up just like the default one. I think just having played the shows that it had,
right.
And just being in the studio, I don't know, just every now and then there's just something special about a certain thing, and it just seems right and it matches well, and that's what it was.
Cool. There's no mod on it, Chris. Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. It's stock, bone stock.
Awesome. Yeah. Very cool. I guess it's just
special because we're that somebody can literally just get the stock thing and get that same thing that we had. It's a really special thing. It's unattainable secrets.
Yeah. I guess I wanted to get into a few other specifics on some of the songs. Like, I mean, Miles Above Me, just the tone on that, the mid range on that, it's just fat. It's a nice big. It's a great sound to hear because a lot of people seem to have forgotten about mid range lately.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories about the tracking of that song is the very intro of it. You can hear when Elvis unmutes the second guitar track that comes in because the feedback just goes right away. Like the guitar screams, and it's really funny because beforehand it's like the guitar was just screaming the entire time in the other room, and only when he hits mute do you actually hear it in the track. If you listen to the beginning of it, that's one of my favorite moments because it's just screaming in the other room. You could hear it in between every take. It's really
Cool.
fun.
And I guess mic setup, is it just the good old SM57, or did you guys use a variety of mics?
We did have a variety of mics now that we had finally categorized and organized every mic in there since the last time around.
Right.
My knowledge on mics is a little limited. It was certainly Elvis's expertise on what we used, and I can't remember exactly what it was.
I'm guessing that the baritone, the Viet baritone, is that on Optimist?
No, actually, that was on one of the demos that we hadn't used yet. That was
Oh,
one of
okay.
growing up. Optimist again was the SA-126. Yeah, it's just how fucking stupid versatile the guitar is.
Yeah, very cool. I do have to ask you one particular old school geek question. Strings and picks, gauges.
Gauges, I use let's see, 0.60 max grip Dunlop picks.
Okay, cool.
That for the 2012 and 2015 tour. And ever since I started using the guitar, it's funny. I went through like every pick Dunlop makes and found myself back at that one just because I was like, what if there's a different pick out there for me?
Sure.
Turns out there wasn't. I've been using the one I was needed to. It was fun to get that confirmation
Yeah.
after everyone. But yeah, the 0.60 max grip Dunlop picks are the magic pick for me. I think they're very versatile for, I think with the upgrade in soloing for me, they're still very capable for fast passages, but overall for strumming and power chords, they're right there as well. So it's a fun little versatile pick.
Cool.
When strings, I use the same D'Addario guitar strings I've always been using. Well, actually, no, a little bit of a mix-up because when we went over to Wembley, I think I was on 10s, Matt.
Wolf was rolling 9 to 46 for a while, and then and as far as the record is concerned, he will gauge depending on the tuning. If it's a lower tuning, we use a higher gauge set. But I'll let Wolf take it from here in England.
Yeah.
Story.
When we were at Wembley, I had my my guitar strung with 10s, but during the what little tiny rehearsals we had, I was so fucking nervous that I was just bending everything out of tune, and it was horrible.
Wow.
Really bad. I feel like I was wasting everyone's time. I was just in a room with everybody, with Justin and Josh and Dave, and in between every little thing, it was like, oh fuck, this is so out of tune because I was so nervous. Luckily we had 11s there that we swapped into, and it worked. So I've been on 11s, I believe, ever since. But yeah, it is way heavier because I was used to 9s on all my guitars because that's what Dad used.
Yeah.
But yeah, the 11s have been very helpful in terms of maintaining tuning and all that, especially since I'm not using a Floyd or anything like that. You got to work a little harder for it, but it keeps everything in check.
Cool. I guess just psychologically preparing for the record, just in a more general sense. I mean, kind of, because I know you're into acting too. You kind of alluded to that when you're writing the lyrics and everything like that. Before vocal performance, do you also kind of have to get into a place, and even when you approach your performances, because you have to play so many roles. You're a drummer, you're a bass player, you're a guitar player, you're a keyboard player, you're a vocalist. You do all these background harmonies.
Yeah, the vocals kind of were, I think, the most surprising part of the process. I felt like I was a new singer. I mean, I think the first album and that whole process, I was doing my best or trying to be a singer. But by the time we were doing this, I've toured for so long, and I've been, legitimately a singer. So when we got into it, I think the first song I sung was Like a Pastime. And I was like, when we got to the last chorus, I was like, you know what, let me try something. And that's when I did that whole last part that's like super high and almost like screamy.
Right.
The, we were all just like, holy shit, where did that come from? And that kind of set the pace, because then we did like another celebration, and there's the uh that one run on the second verse, the yeah, baby
Right.
part. It's like, wow, that was full voice. How the fuck did I do that? And there was just so many moments where I was surprising myself. I was like, wow, I guess when you do something a lot, you get better at it.
True. Well, you can hear it. You can really hear it.
Thank you.
And the harmonies too. I just have to compliment you on that. I mean, how do you put together these harmonies? They're pretty deep on a lot of the songs.
I've loved harmony. I've been singing and loving harmonies to songs that don't even have harmonies like my whole life. I think that started kind of with one, just Van Halen all the time, great harmonies.
Yeah.
Also, for a band that I found on my own, Blink-182, I always loved the way
Oh yeah.
Mark voices harmonized. So I think my brain is always just wired to listen for and or add harmonies into anything that has it or doesn't. So that's always a really fun process. Depending on which song, sometimes they end up being really, really high and really crazy. And I remember after I did the high harmony in the bridge of Take a Bow right before the solo, I remember calling John, or I texted John, my guitar player who does most of the background vocals live.
Right.
I was just like, hey man, I'm sorry. But no, we laughed and it's fun. But yeah, that's always a really fun moment. It's like it's wide open, because when you get there, it's like, okay, what direction should we take with these harmonies? And that Elvis and I have a lot of fun going through and picking which harmonies to do and how to add to it and everything.
Cool. I have to ask couple things. One is, how did you get that crazy dissonant sound on Erase Me? That gonk, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know, because it's a funny thing how that song is sort of like, it's like a heavy pop song at the same time, and it's really, that one was a bitch too, because I mean, kind of all of them. I found throughout the recording process and singing and everything that that I always have like the top of my vocal range ends up being the chorus, and it's like that makes it really difficult for me for live, if every single chorus is going to be straining to hit the top of my vocal range. But I don't know, I think I've figured it out now good enough.
Cool. Very cool. I guess the one thing on Erase Me was that guitar sound that especially it's at the very end of the song.
Oh yeah, that's it. There's this one harmonic that's like right around the third fret, I think. I do random harmonics like that, but that's just every string harmonic, I think around the third or fourth fret, with the phaser pinned all the way.
Oh, cool.
And I think I ended up turning it down a little bit as it like lets go, because you can hear it start to wane in the effect. But yeah, that's just a harmonic on all the strings with the phaser going nuts.
Great. That's such a cool sound. I mean, again, like I said, there's so much ear candy on this record that it's just like, I just, for guitar players, it's fun. I mean, because you got so many textures. I mean, I could go on and on about how did you do this. I just did want to ask, because I know on your Instagram you posted a picture of the SG Les Paul, with the horn cut off.
Yeah.
And where did you use that? Where did you use that guitar?
Use that on Like a Pastime for the melody on top when the song comes in. It was for that. And then also for the harmony to the rhythm, because the rhythm has the going. That's just the low. That's the SA-126, and then there's the on top of that. That is the harmony to that, and then there's that melodic sort of almost like retro-y 80s sort of line that we use the what I call the less G for.
Okay, cool. Do you remember what effects you used on the intro on that? I mean, it's a really cool sound. It is kind of very 80s.
It's funny. It ended up not being as washy and affected as I thought it was going to be. I think we just used a flanger and a phaser, and then just a straight from the amp sound, and just kind of blended the three together.
Cool. Very cool. Very classic sound. Very, very cool. Any other guitars on the record beyond the SA-126 and what we've talked about?
I know for a demo that the idea never got fleshed out fully. I used one of Matt's tellies, but other than that, no, it really it's kind of crazy how much that burst SA-126 is literally the backbone of the entire album. It's kind of ridiculous
Awesome.
how that guitar was to the entire process.
I think when you get a good guitar, though, especially that's a lot of people don't realize how versatile semi-hollow guitars, electrics are, and I think that's you're really showing it off here. I mean, especially in territory that it hasn't really gone much, if at all, before.
Well,
Yeah, it's really nuts. The genty part of Right to the clean intro of Take a Bow, and to be like, wow, that's the same guitar. That's crazy.
the thing about the guitar is it's beyond a semi-hollow. The reason
True.
it performs the way that it does is there's nothing like that guitar. So it takes its inspiration from a classical design, but the way we put it together and the pickups and just the whole thing, it makes a different sound because it's a different sounding guitar than anything else.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's like a classic rod, but with just like a souped up modern engine. Like it doesn't exist, and when we made it.
Cool. Very cool. So when is the SA-126 coming out?
We will be able to talk more about that next year. I'm very, very excited. Next year, everyone will be able to get their hands on it finally.
Yeah, it's I know so many people, as I told you last time. So crazy about it, but you've really given it quite the you've definitely tempted us for a while now.
It's a pretty fun way to have. I mean, it's exactly what Dad did with the Wolfgang. Just kind of road testing it and crash testing it, and it just gets better and better each go. So I'm really excited for people to finally get it in their hands. It's a rare thing and such a wonderful opportunity to be able to design a brand new instrument for what we're doing, but it also keeping in mind what it's capable of and what other people can use it for. And I've had such a wonderful time with Matt and Chip designing it that it's just a dream.
Cool. Want to talk a little bit about the headlining tour? What can we expect? I mean, obviously a much longer set.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think, it's like an hour and a half headline set now that it's a full sort of headline tour. So that's going to be very exciting to play. I think it's like 14 to 17 songs, I think, depending on the length of each. I know what I wanted to do, and I've already been working on it, is to have like, an A set and a B set. And I think depending on like how close we are, or maybe we just flip them every night, I don't know, to have, I think, maybe 4 or 5 slots throughout the night that can be this song one night and this song the other night.
Oh, great.
It'll be fun just to kind of add that sort of unpredictability to the set, and for people who, because we have a lot of wonderful, dedicated fans who come to multiple shows. So it'd be fun to be able to give everybody a different show every now and then.
Oh, definitely, definitely. The band's really gelling too. I mean, you guys seem to have a really great camaraderie. You guys are not just a band, but like a band of brothers.
Hey man, it's so fun to play with them, and it's really, really fun to have all this new material to pull from. So I think now that we have 2 full albums of stuff, I hope you dig the new album, because we're going to play most of, if not all of it, across the 2 different sets that we have planned.
Well, that's the thing. It's like there's just I just listening to the record. It's like I can't wait to hear this live. Can't wait to hear this live. I can't wait to hear that one live. It's like,
yeah, and I think there's that air of also wanting to be as efficient as possible touring, because we're not the biggest band. We can't afford to bring 8 different tunings and stuff. So I think trying to hammer down what guitars to bring and you know, per guitar player and stuff, will, I think, affect what songs we can feasibly do or not do. So it's I think it might end up, since there's not a bunch of crazy tunings on the new album, we might end up playing a bit more from the new album than the first album.
Cool.
But
What alternate tunings are on this album?
it's all standard or drop D, depending on the song. Like Optimist is drop D. Let's see, Right is standard. Well, here, you know what? I'll go through it really fast.
Cool.
Let me pull it. Okay, Right is standard. Like a Pastime is drop D. Another Celebration is standard. Miles Above Me is standard. Take a Bow is drop D, a half step down, so drop C sharp.
Okay.
Optimus is drop D. I'm All Right is standard. Erase Me is drop D. Waiting is standard, but with a capo on 2. So I guess Wonderwall.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Waiting is Wonderwall.
Right.
Better Than You is drop D, and there you go. So yeah,
Cool.
not craziness, at least compared to the first album.
Yeah. You've had the band with you for a while. I mean, are there going to be plans to include them in the recording process, or is it still going to be your own deal?
It's very possible, but currently I just have such a good time recording. You know, it's like the only opportunity I get to play drums anymore.
Yeah.
That you know, I'm not sure if I'm ready to completely let go of the recording process. Kind of like when you look at Foos, it was like once he had the band, it was right away, that sort of thing. But I've had so much fun, and I think that's the core DNA, at least so far, of Mammoth albums, is that whole process. But I mean, who knows? Ask me 3 albums from now, and maybe I'll be sick of it. I really don't know. But for now, I enjoy the process too much, selfishly, I think, to give it up. So
Cool.
I guess we'll see down the line. I would absolutely love to collaborate. I think maybe the realistic way of seeing that is like, maybe, hey, they appear on one song here and there, or maybe Frank does a solo on this, or maybe, you know, John is on this. You know, maybe they start to seep through over time instead of just a full album right away. But I guess that's yet to be seen. We'll just have to see what happens.